All right, I think we'll get started. I want to start by thanking everyone for joining us this evening. We appreciate your interest and commitment to this crucially important piece of the OATA's governance going forward into the future. As we've said before, this is something that the OATA and every other organization incorporated under the Corporations Act simply has to do in order to conform with the new Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act. You're going to hear the rest of the night as that being referred to as ONCA. A bylaws committee was established by the board. It met a number of times over a several-week period to develop the new bylaws and to thrash out major governance issues that had to be dealt with. Committee members are with us tonight, and I would like to thank them wholeheartedly for volunteering for this tough job. I know that they had a lot of meetings and long meetings, and they contribute a lot to this exercise. Once the bylaw committee then forwarded their bylaw recommendations to the board with some very few minor changes, the board accepted the bylaws as submitted by the committee. We've had some members ask for a red line version of the bylaws, so the differences between the past and present can be easily identified, which is quite understandable, but I'm afraid it's not very doable. And it's not possible because we're not dealing with amendments or editing our old bylaws. We're actually having to develop an entire brand new set of bylaws. And in many areas, we had to start from scratch. And I think as we go on tonight and go through some of the Q&As and questions, it's important to remember that as part of ONCA's requirements, we had to have inclusion of what ONCA is asking for in our bylaws. So that was also a challenge that the committee came up with when ONCA's requesting that something is in there, how we would incorporate that to fit the OATA's needs. We've also explained the new bylaws will be presented at the next annual members meeting for discussion and hopeful ratification by the membership. Questions that we accumulate through this town hall that come in from individual members and any other means will be collected, grouped, and answered on the OATA website for all members to see and digest before that annual members meeting. Before we start, I want to emphasize that this town hall is about the new bylaws and nothing else. To make best use of everyone's time, we will be dealing just with the bylaws tonight and nothing that is not related to the bylaws. I want to thank you again for participating and once again thank the members of the bylaw committee for their work in this project that we're going to be reviewing tonight. So with that, I'll turn this over to Tony Carbonet, who was the board liaison with the bylaws committee.
Thanks, Andy. Again, welcome everyone. We're going to try and stick to a schedule here as just a few housekeeping rules. Again, as Andy said, my name is Tony Carbonetti and I'll be the moderator for tonight. So I apologize if you hear my voice a little bit too much tonight. You'll see in our slideshow deck that we'll have for you here, registration's been open for 6 days. I believe we are up to, I can't see the number right now, but I think we have about 40 or 45 members, which is great. Thank you for all attending. And registration closed today earlier, about 5 o'clock. If anybody doesn't get a chance to get on this call or see it, this is being recorded. It will be posted to the OATA website. And everyone, if you didn't get a chance to submit questions, and for those who did, thank you very much. Everyone has until the end of March to submit a question. So we will either address those on the website, and if there's I guess a plethora of more questions and enough questions, we will happily hold a second town hall to address any concerns. So tonight, the meeting is scheduled to end at 9:30, and we will stay sharp to that. We will end this meeting at 9:30. Whether we get through all the questions, the ones that have been pre-sent in or any live questions, just to be respectful of everybody's time. So as we go forward here, sorry, I'm just checking my notes and a couple of points I need to make. Yeah, so we're gonna, if you give me a second here, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm not the tech savviest, so I'm gonna do that if you bear with me, please. And we are going to start the slide show. View slideshow. I hope everybody can see that clearly. I'm just going to minimize this. Thank you very much. Okay. So again, officially welcome to the March 19th Town Hall. And as Andy said, tonight's about the bylaws and how we got to this point. And we will be sticking to just the bylaws tonight to inform everybody as much as we can about the changes that have been brought forth by the bylaws committee and agreed upon by the board themselves for ratification by the members. So just a little bit of context. There's, sorry, I've already stated that, so that's great. So just a little bit of context about where we're at as a board and an association. So ONCA, as Andy previously stated, is the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporate Act. Back in 2010, the government passed it. I'm not going to read all these word for word. I know everybody's got some great skills at reading. I'm just going to try and buzz over some of the key points so that we understand that. So I won't be reading the slides, everything word for word, sorry. So to fast forward to 2021, the new ONCA Corporations Act took effect on October 19th, 2021. All and every non-for-profit corporations in Ontario was given 3 years to fully comply. So that brings us up until October 19th, 2023. 4. My math is terrible. So here we are at. So we then, yeah, so, sorry, my phone's buzzing. So we have a certain date to get everything complied with. So the board went on, got a bylaws committee, and we started the process. So that's what brings us to now. Just to, sorry, these pop-ups. Sorry, Karen, if you can stop the people trying to get into the meeting. So at that point, once the act was passed in Ontario, the OATA went forward and sought some legal counsel, sought some governance experts in preparation for this proclamation and for us to comply with where the act was going. And then that was tried way back in 2011. And so it brought us to now where, because we have very little time in the 3-year period to comply, we decided to go the route of a bylaws committee, which would oversee the new bylaws, comment on them, change them, accept them, and then bring them forward to the board for passing. Sorry, next slide. Again, not going to read every line word for word. I know everybody can kind of scan over this. But moving forward, the bylaws are mainly to oversee how a non-for-profit organization conducts itself. I'll give everybody a few minutes to glance over. So bylaw basics, again, not going to necessarily read every point for everybody, but bylaw basics are this list here. As you can see, the board over the last couple of years in working with the bylaws committee, the actual relationship between acts and regulations and bylaws and policies is very complicated, and certainly one that we're constantly learning about as we've had to adapt the bylaws. So tonight, as you can see, the relationship between the act, regulations, and articles, we are only dealing with our bylaws, not the articles, not the regulations, not the act. So in terms of the working group, there's some points there that you can see, but as Andy mentioned, we thank the volunteers that volunteered their time to be part of this committee in this working group. They spent many days over a couple of months reviewing, being presented the bylaws, changes that had to be made, changes that they had some say and to amend, virtual meetings that last an hour and a half, 4, 5, 6 meetings. And the process was that they finish and finalize their suggestions, and then they would present them to the board, which that has been done. The board then job was to pass or agree or approve the bylaws, and that has been done. So the final step is for us to present this to the membership for ratification. So the bylaws of not-for-profit cover 3 main areas. And as you can see highlighted here, how to join, how to conduct ourselves as members, and how to lead. And this is basically what the working group was looking at the whole time. And moving forward, we're thankful we've had a fair bit of interest as the questions we've received. And tonight we'll be going through first a bunch of questions we received online from our members, and we thank those members for submitting those. So the questions that we're receiving tonight, I'll go back one, actually address these areas, how to join and how to conduct and how to lead. So we're thankful that there's a lot of interest in our membership and how to move forward and how we're going to include these next new bylaws. So going forward now, I guess we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the town hall. Like I've said, we have questions that were pre-submitted by members. We thank those members for doing so. If you are looking to have a question submitted, we encourage you to do so. All these questions will be posted on the website. This slideshow will be posted on the website. So if you can't be here all night, you can certainly see the slideshow later. And we'll get through some of the questions now. If time permits, at the end of the pre-submitted questions, we will open up for some live questions. But as a friendly reminder, this meeting will end at 9:30 sharp. We won't go through word for word, but we'll go through these questions in general so people get a good understanding of them. So why is the OATA board revising the bylaws now? Well, as previously explained, ONCA, the Ontario Not-for-Profit Association, requires that non-for-profit associations comply. And so we have until the October 19th, 2024. So like many associations, we've taken the steps to get ahead and stay ahead of this rather than being done at the last minute. Why is an associate or academic or non-voting membership category non-voting? Again, the Corporations Act, ONCA, suggests and allows for associations to have non-voting members. The fully certified member category, we feel as a board and the working group feels that those members should have full rights as they are fully investing in the association and the discipline of athletic therapy. The other association or the other categories such as associate or academic, everyone felt that in exchange for either a reduced fee or some other rights that the full category doesn't have, one of those rights was a non-voting. Was a non-vote. Apologies. Why are only certified members are allowed to be elected to the board. It's important to note that the board is authorized to appoint anyone from the membership to a category, from any category, sorry, to the board. But again, in going along with the voting right exchange, the board feels it's appropriate that full certified, committed members be allowed to apply and run for the board. But the board has the authority to appoint somebody from any membership, should that occasion arise. Why is proxy voting not allowed? Again, with the evolution of online, the working group and the board felt that it was important to reduce confusion and reduce chaos with proxy voting that may present itself. E-voting now, online voting, makes things easy. So it was decided in the bylaws that proxy voting was just not something that we needed anymore.
Tony, can I jump in for just 1 second?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I couldn't get my mute off. I just wanted to touch base on the membership categories and why, just to add further to the non-voting aspect of the associate categories. I think it's important to remember that those categories were established in looking at appeasing to a certain group of people that wanted to be a member of that, but also recognizing that those members have the choice to be a full member should they choose as well, that comes with the voting rights. So it's not, I don't look at it that it's the bylaws are taking away the vote. We're looking at it that we're offering the members a choice of whether they would like to be in this category or this category, and what comes with each. Just to finish up on Tony's point on the proxy voting and why it's not being allowed. There was some review done with some of our other associations as well. And the one thing that did come up is the verification aspect of proxy votings was quite difficult. And when you're comparing to allowing pre-voting, e-voting methods, that we felt that was a much better option to go with. So sorry, Tony, you can go ahead.
Oh, that's great. Great additions, Andy. Isn't the 40% quorum of members meeting too high? This was a great question. This is something that was highly debated within the working group, and then again thoroughly with the board, to encourage more members present at meetings. Both groups felt that this was a number that we would go with, and that is 40% of the membership. Historically, OATA has had low numbers show up to meetings, at times less than 5% or 8%. So it is important that, and the working group felt and the board felt that it is important that to have members' voices heard, to have their votes, be of relevance and important to topics that the board brings forward or whatever needs to be voted on. So we felt that the 40% was a good area to be at, to encourage more members to attend. And there will be an amendment, or not an amendment, there will be an addition to this answer at a further question, as you will see, and that will clarify a few more things. But now with the existence of online and obviously, e-AGMs, if you will, and online AGMs, we feel that we're trying to encourage people to attend as we continue to grow our association and athletic therapy. So the why don't the bylaws require that an annual financial statements be approved by the members? there will be some answers in here, and this is one of them. This actually falls back on the new ONCA Act, that it actually does not require a vote. The requirement of the association is to have the financials presented to the membership. Its requirement is to allow the membership to ask questions, but there actually is no vote or approval on the financials, and that is not an OATA statement or policy or position. It's actually what the new ONCA allows non-for-profit associations. So it's not our amendment, it's the new ONCA ruling. Andy, you've had some experience with this in getting us to this level. I'll let you jump in with this question, that what is a reciprocal member?
I'll just give you a second to read over this. But to make this as simple as we can, a reciprocal member is previously when we were required to be a member of the CATA required regional membership, this didn't come up as much. But now, in looking at we could have a CTSQ member in Quebec who's living in Gatineau and doing some work in Ottawa and is looking to be, but resides in Quebec and wants to be a member of the OATA where they're working as well. It was a way for us to look and have agreements with other regional associations where we could provide those member capabilities, and extends beyond just the standard membership. But some of the examples that came up were, if you were close to the border, or you did travel or worked in another province often, and you wanted to attend their conferences and whatnot, this would allow you as a member there to go to member rate and whatnot. But it basically is trying to build our profession. It gives members from another region that could be living or working in our region on and off through the year to be a member of the OATA as well.
Thanks, Andy. Again, I'll refer to you, Andy, on this one with some of your experience and work you've done over the last few years as president.
I think it answers pretty straight here. The old bylaws that we did have, it never had a requirement that you had to be a member of the CATA. So that statement has never been in there. What our bylaws did require was the CAT-C certification. So yeah, in order to be a member of the OATA, as a certified member, you had to be CATC certified. But now with CATA not requiring regional association membership, we didn't feel it was no longer necessary or appropriate for the OATA to just designate one CATA membership or certification as a requirement of the OATA. The bylaws give the authority, as it says here, for the board to designate the CAT-C certification as an eligibility requirement, or any other relevant certifications as well. So basically, the CAT-C is required for a certified member, but it's not just limiting to that at this time. And this is to protect the association as well, so that this is new. This is going to be hopefully ongoing for a while, so that there is some room there should decisions have to be made down the road.
Thank you. Why the difference? Why the student membership category, and what's the difference between the student membership category and the certified candidate membership category? Again, we'll let you browse through this answer, but basically, certified candidates are those who have graduate or are close to graduating from their academic programs, and are therefore relatively far along in their post-secondary academic careers, close to that exam and becoming a certified member. And students would refer to somebody who's earlier along in that process or just entering school, and just helping along with the movement along into the association to student to a candidate who's prepping to write the exam, things like that. So just the ONCA allows the association to really describe the membership categories rather than just having certified and everybody else in a bulk category.
I think it's also important here, Tony, to recognize when we hear certification candidate, we tend to equate that with someone who is now actively, in an accredited institution who's trying to fulfill the requirements to challenge certification exam, which I don't think differentiates here. The student membership also opens the doors, we felt, to help promote the profession where, potentially you could have a university student doing their undergrad in a health sciences that wants to get involved with the sports teams at their school and, is really liking the profession and wants to become involved. That student membership category then is an avenue for them where if they wanted to be a part of the OATA, that they could under that category. So those are basically the differences. One that's sort of looking at where it's required by that accrediting institution, and the other one where they're quite not there yet.
Number 10 here refers to remuneration of directors. Board of directors do not get remunerated for their duties or their time. As Anka states and has always stated, directors are absolutely and lawfully allowed to be remunerated for excess time in terms of traveling expenses, if live meetings were held, gas money, hotel, should that be, things like that. But there are no actual remunerations in terms of the lawful duties of the board director. Directors do not make money there. It's a completely volunteer position. Member classifications, whatever additional criteria may be set by the board. This implies that the board may make up to criteria when they don't, when they want to allow or deny a member into the association at any point in time. Is this correct? No. And again, back to ANCA giving the, as well, I'll just read the here first. So the exercise of this authority could not be directed at a specific individual or member and cannot apply to any entire existing membership category. Any change of a category has to be approved by the members at an AGM. That hasn't changed and is still in the new ANCA bylaws. Why aren't the president and other OATA officers elected directly by the membership, as is the case with the CATA? The Ontario Not-for-Profit Act requires that members elect board members, and board members then themselves elect the corporate officers and positions. So at the Ontario level, provincial level, that is required for a board. The members elect a board, and then that specific board determines the positions best suited for the requirements and the needs on the board. Some shorter questions here. What is the criteria for an inactive member to return to certified or associate status? This process hasn't changed. Apply to the board for reinstatement and pay the fees that apply. So that hasn't changed. Disciplinary act or termination of a membership for cause. How does this get applied to towards a board member? It's the exact same for a board member. If a board member is in breach of any of those, membership that cause for what we call with cause, board members are no different. Competency criteria. This is pertaining to the interview process for nominees of the board. Where will this criteria be posted and shared with the associate transparent of the process? This is not a matter for inclusion in the bylaws, and it does not state that the entire nomination process The process has been posted. The process follows within the guidelines of what ONCA requires. And in fact, most of all of our peers and what we're seeing now is a lot of non-for-profit associations who did not have very clear and concise nomination processes are converting to that. So there is an application process, there is a vetting process, there is a review in that process whether a nominee is competent enough and meets certain criteria. And the new ONCA bylaws actually not only encourage it, but require it. So moving forward, as was what happened at the last year's nomination process, moving forward, there will always be a interview process and a vetting process for nominees to the board. Will the membership be given an opportunity to vote on these new bylaws? Yes. So right now, today is somewhat an informal introduction to these bylaws. They are in the OATA website. You can find those through your membership. It's for you to review, but these will be brought forward at the next AGM for ratification and voting, which we obviously as a board are hoping these get ratified, because it means our compliance with the new ONCA requirements is complete and we can move forward. I'll fire this one back to Andy because again, he's got some experience with this category, but in terms of the Emrys membership being dropped.
Yeah, the explanation's right here, but we added the emeritus membership category at the request of CATA when they had created that category. Previously, the plan was with CATA and the regions that we all had sort of reciprocal categories of membership. With that being now dropped, that OATA emeritus category is no longer required. And we've gone with retired membership category as an alternative, and you can read the explanation there. But it was the reason why it was added was to fall in line with CATA. The reason why we've replaced it with retired is we feel that that's a more appropriate category going forward.
Annual member meeting, 5 days is the minimum notice for financial statements, auditors report to review the AMM. Can that not be a longer time to provide people with an ample time to review prior to meetings? Why can't the business be brought up at the AMM without prior written notice? As you've noted, the 5 days specified as a minimum. Written notice is a common provision in the bylaws under the new ONCA Act. So its purpose is to avoid members being caught unawares and getting that information out to the members in time. So it's just a stated minimum 5 days, and the OATA has always planned to get information out way more than the minimum 5 days. So it's just a stated ONCA bylaw that corporations, should they choose so, have the choice to do minimum 5 days, but historically OATA has and will continue to get these informations out sooner. So that's not something it's mandatory. Advanced voting. Why can't advanced voting be done for all votes? Why only the board determines it allowed? Lots of questions here. Was the scrutineer selected? Is there a process to make sure that's selected fairly and without due bias? Again, we'll just stick on the advanced voting. Advanced voting was chosen, and this was a question that went back to quorum. So advanced voting, the board will allow for it, especially in the event that, and like an AGM, cannot be physically attended. Any e-votes ahead of an AGM on any given subject will account for and go towards quorum. So it basically allows a meeting to be had in the event that we don't meet physical quorum. Now the e-votes that contribute to a given subject, if the board chooses to allow for advanced voting, those votes now go towards quorum, which I think will facilitate towards meetings being attended to, which we think is a positive thing. And on a note on that, advanced voting would happen through your membership going forward. So in terms of the scrutineer, it'll all be collected data through the website. Your membership, your ID, members will only be allowed to vote once. Once your vote has been collected, you will not be able to vote again. So it really cleans up the process that we can have one vote and it's efficient. And if you're somebody that cannot attend the AGM or the meeting, whatever meeting that's being held, you can do your vote anytime from home. Adoption and amendment of the bylaws. How can the board amend or repeal and replace the bylaw in whole or in part at any time without notice or a vote by the members? Again, members and the membership have to ratify any changes that are made. But the new Corporations Act allows the boards and gives the board the authority to change and amend, replace or repeal conditions set and conditions in their bylaws. But again, it doesn't change the end result that any changes, any repeals, any amendments, albeit come in effectively, they still must be ratified by the membership. So
Tony, just to add here as well, I think it's important to remember that the bylaws committee, and when we were reviewing this, we didn't have the option to say, oh, we would like to take this part of ANCA, oh, but not this part. We had to incorporate all the ANCA requirements, and this was something that it's an ANCA requirement. So some of these things that are in here, they're to fall in line with the Not-for-Profit Corporation Act that have to be in place. But as we say, anything that, if that was ever exercised, it still is something that needs to be ratified by the members for approval.
When the board is discussing the position, salary, or benefits of the president, I thought the board positions were voluntary and done without remuneration. Why would the board need to discuss the salary benefits of the president? Again, no board member receives salary or remuneration in terms of their time that they dedicate and volunteer to. But it is conceivable, but most likely not, that that if the board decides the duties of the president have I'll clean this up here, sorry. It's possible that a board member can become an officer, and officers under the Corporations Act have the ability to receive money. Just gonna say, it goes back to the ANCA actually allows the provision. We're just stating what they allow.
And they did so to appease those associations where they may have a president or board member who brought an expertise in an area that they wanted to compensate for. So in order to avoid conflict of interest, that's where ANCA came with this. As we say here, this doesn't really apply. If I'm getting checks sent to me, they're going to the wrong address. But it's again, it's appeasing the ANCA requirement.
Who is senior management? What role does senior management group have in the corporation? Who determines who that senior management is? How would the corporation go about changing the senior management? board conduct, who monitors board, who manages the conduct of the president. Again, we've already covered conduct of the president. Senior management is, the board has the ability to hire management as it see fits. The board conducts the business of the association. The board has historically chosen to hire a management firm versus hiring 2, 3, 4, 5 salaried staff, which puts the finances at risk should there be termination or whatever that goes in and having a individual employee. The board has always felt that hiring a firm of which it acquires all aspect of firm management, marketing, governance experts, connections to the government, legal consultation, whatever the benefits the board is seeking. The board has always felt that that comes best in the senior in the management firm. So the conduct of the president, as we previously stated, is monitored by the board, as with all directors. The board holds its responsibility to each other to make sure we conduct ourselves in a professional manner. And should a board member not fulfill their duties or conduct themselves in an unprofessional manner, the board has the ombudsperson, we have ethics, and we have the consultation of the management firm, who are the board experts and governance experts, to hold the board accountable. Anything you want to add in there, Andy?
No.
Okay.
I actually, I will just add one thing. When what rules you made? Okay. Just the question, yeah, as Tony mentioned, the board is the one who's responsible for managing the corporation. So they basically have to decide whether you want to go to the model where you're hiring a full-time staff with, what comes with that, the salary, the benefits, whatnot, the terms or whatnot, or the management firm. And it gives you that option. I don't know. I don't think we really have to get into who determines what senior management is. It is the board's decision. We've chosen to use the management firm route, which we feel is best practices in reviewing our peer associations as well. But yeah, ANCA gives you the option to decide how you want to do that.
Membership dues. The bylaw states the board of directors may set and apply dues and any other fees that are payable to memberships in any membership class. This implies that the board can change the dues at any point without a vote by the membership. Is this correct? And again, back to amending and appealing bylaws. No, any change to fees has to go through the membership and will always be brought forth to the membership. So the board can obviously assess and look at fees and dues and any monies that we need or look to collect, or whatever the board is trying to do, but that ideally always has to go through the members at a vote, whether it's a AGM or a special meeting, whatever the case is. So similar to appealing and amending the bylaws, votes to this degree always have to go through the membership. In contrast to that, prior to COVID, as COVID was, for lack of a better word, ending, the board made the unanimous decision to lower the fees actually by 25%, to help members coming out of COVID, getting back on their feet and not having that fee come out of their pocket when they might have been potentially not working or were diminished in their clientele, things like that. And the board also made the choice to allow members to pay over 3 or 4 payments. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but I can't remember if it was 3 or 4. But the board made choices, and albeit didn't necessarily go through the membership at that point, the board lowered the fees, and which we thought was best for the membership. So once we sort of come out of COVID, if you will, that return to our initial and original membership dues wasn't actually an increase. It was a return to our original membership dues. But as this question is asking about, any changes to membership dues must be ratified and go through the members. How can the financial year be changed from time to time by the board? Once a fiscal year is set, does it not need to be kept? Again, going back to how some of these questions are being answered, this goes back to the actual ANCA, the new act that we have to follow under. And this is just a provision that exists in their act, that the board has the ability to, and gives the board the authority to set and adjust the financial year.
This is one of those things I spoke of, that it's not, we are not making this up. This is something that Anka is saying, you have to have this in. So we are appeasing that section. Basically, it's not something that we decide to add. It's something that we decide to add based on what Anka told us we had to have in.
Yeah, and I guess to reiterate what Andy said later, we did not have the ability as a board or working group to choose and pick and choose what parts of the act we wanted to keep or didn't want to keep, or what we liked or we didn't like. There was a certain foundation that we had to accept, which is pretty much all of it. Adoption and amendment of the bylaws. Does the membership not get a say in whether or not to accept the bylaws? Will the members be given a chance to vote on accepting these bylaws? Can the members get a copy? So again, as previously stated by a couple of questions, we want to, and we will reiterate this and why this question is there, albeit similar to other ones. These are not like brand new bylaws from scratch that this current board is making up. We have an obligation to comply with ANCA as a non-for-profit association in Ontario. These bylaws we have to take on. So these still have to be ratified by the membership, but at this point, these are pretty much bylaws that we have to take on. And this new ANCA bylaws, as you can see, going back to 2011 when these were changed and accepted by the Ontario government, it's taken them that long to actually accept them themselves. And now, back to the original statements at the beginning of the slide, Ontario non-for-profit organizations have 3 years to comply, and we have about a year left. So we're doing our best to stay ahead of this, rather than doing it in 4, 5, 6 segments. The board thought it was best that we do them all at once, have them properly assessed and looked over by a working group, have them accepted by the board, which has met all the proper governance process and legal process that we are required on our end to comply. Who was part of the bylaws working group? Was there a call for membership to join, or at least put their names forward to be part of the working group? What criteria were used to include or exclude individuals from being part of the bylaws working group? So as every year that OATA does, when members renew their membership, everybody is asked to indicate if they have any interest, willingness to serve or volunteer in any degree of capacity. Members are not obligated to volunteer. Obviously, members are not obligated to be interested to help out, but we certainly ask, and there were many members that voiced their willingness to help out should the occasion arise, whether it be a committee or subcommittee or working group. These volunteers were selected by the board by reaching out to them to see if this was something they were interested in. They showed interest. We created a working group, and we thank them, but they put in some diligent time and diligent hours, and helping us get to this point. So again, we thank them for their time. Protection of directors. Are they untouchable? No, directors are not untouchable. Directors can be removed by the membership, can be referred to ethics or the ombuds, like any member in good standing, and have to be reelected by the membership. Directors are not untouchable. The provision simply provides legal authorization for the corporation to obtain directors and officers liability insurance, and the directors to hold directors no hold harm. What that statement means is that once directors are placed as board of directors have to, the board has to, on behalf of the board of directors, purchase E&O insurance, errors and omissions, no hold harmless, if insurance. In the process of having such insurance, the board and board of directors are then not only legally through the act, but now insurance-wise, very responsible and very obligated to do their duties in good faith. Processes on the board, decisions, choices, voting must be recorded at all times, and decisions must be done in the proper fashion. And hence why the board has an ombuds to help oversee that process is done correctly. And again, with the help of a management firm with their governance expertise, and the legal counsel that we receive time to time when making decisions. So the board has a very much a duty to conduct themselves in a professional manner, and fulfill their duties not only on the Corporations Act side of things, but from an insurance protection side of things. Andy, do you want to contribute anything to that answer in terms of being a board member?
No, that's good.
Filling vacancies. Will the members actually be given a chance to fill the vacancy? Call for an SMM. Will that be expected by the BOD? As per the duties and responsibilities of a director under the Act, a vacancy that occurs between meetings, AMMs, elections will be filled by the board. What that means, in the event a board member chooses to step away from the board, in the event of personal matters, if a board member has to step away, if the board member just chooses to not be on the board anymore, or in the event that a board member was removed between meetings, the board of directors has the authority and the obligation to fill that vacancy immediately on their own authority. It doesn't, that particular choice and authority doesn't have to go to a vote. There's always been a standard procedure, bylaw 5.03. If the vacancy occurs due to a director's removal from the office of a member, resolution that the vacancy would be filled by a member at the members' meeting. So when time frames, I guess if you're 2 or 3 years is up at meetings, or should there not be a member on a seat at a meeting, those positions can be filled. But in between meetings, if for whatever reason there is a unexpected vacancy, the board has the authority to fill that vacancy through appointment.
And I don't think that's really, I'll just add, I don't think that's really changed, and it is common practice, and it's should someone vacate while they're on their term on the board, yeah, the board then can do replacement. And we see this quite commonly, and we've seen it. CATA just they went through the same issue where they had
They had their election. They had a member that resigned, and they filled it at that time with Fayez, and then they elected him as their president. So there's a perfect example of how the board can then bring someone in, and they can also then delegate that board member to one of the officer positions. So that's fairly common. That will continue.
Thanks, Andy. Academic and reciprocal membership. Again, something I think that Andy's been a part of, and he's commented on this before, but I'll let Andy go back to this one a little bit and comment on this reciprocal membership.
We answered the reciprocal membership question earlier. I feel we added the academic category, and again, this was to appease to some members, as it states here, grad students or those that aren't primarily practicing as an AT in the field or in a clinic, but are involved in research or in an institution, and they would like to choose that category. They can obviously join as a full certified member, but if this was something that appeased at a different rate, that was just an option for them. So the academic is for those people in that field who may be teaching, who may be doing research, but are involved in athletic therapy in that way, but obviously are not actively practicing. So it was just an option for that group of members. One question I had earlier that sort of relates to this is why are so many of these categories? And this, in trying to appease the ONCA requirements, it's also we want to try and really get it right this first time, because making addition and changes after is much more difficult. The subcategories are something they do encourage, and so we looked at our membership and how could we best support them in offering some of these other membership categories. And I like the word offering because it is ultimately a choice that they could or could not choose to use.
And then just an addition to what Andy said, and as you can see by the second paragraph, the reciprocal membership is not strictly an OATA of interest. The OATA is always in constant contact with the other associations, presidents and boards, and there is active communication right now with Quebec, and being able to come up with some degree of recognition and reciprocity, reciprocity between the associations, and so that's some slow moving but great work that's being done behind the scenes right now. When did the name change to Athletic Therapy Ontario happen? Why wasn't the membership consulted or notified? Most of us found out when we opened a greeting card. Easily been missed. Does this not open the door to individuals who are not athletic therapists to join OATA or say that they practice without being a certified therapist? This is actually not a bylaw matter, but we've decided to throw it in here to help clear up any confusion. The name of the association has not changed. It still remains Ontario Athletic Therapists Association. But over the years, in private discussions with members that all board members have, or comments we get as a board about how we should be growing and moving forward as an association and as a profession, marketing, growth, branding is always a very, very common suggestion answer for the association. And so AT Ontario Athletic Therapy Ontario was actually registered for actual just branding purposes. It's where the OATA is not changing its name, like a small business with a tagline or a company with a tagline. By stimulating branding and stimulating marketing, that was just basically why it was introduced on the website and to members and social media groups and things like that. So It's more of a step to help with promotion and marketing of the profession, as the board is in constant contact with new sponsors and new partners, insurance companies, things like that. So more of the fallback on it's marketing and branding, but the association name hasn't changed at all whatsoever. Andy, anything to contribute to that one, or are we good?
No, we're good. Strictly, the number one thing we hear is promoting the profession, and it's strictly as a branding. You can see the logo, it's to help promote the profession. And I almost look at it, and I think it does maybe say it here, but when we say that does it not encourage practicing without being certified athletic therapists, and I thought when this was launched, it might actually serve the opposite in trying to protect a little bit more. Because as of now, anyone in Ontario can call themselves an athletic therapist. We thought that the AT Ontario brought a little bit of credibility, I guess, more to the athletic therapist title. So no, it's just strictly marketing. OATA is OATA, and it will remain OATA.
Thank you for your time. Looking at the time here, we're almost 10 after 9. Again, we will conclude this meeting obviously in the next 15 to 20 minutes as we approach 9:30. Just a reminder that if anybody has more questions that they'd like to submit privately through email or to the association, you can. We encourage anybody to send more questions in, and you'll have to the end of the month to ask questions. Obviously on the bylaws, this is what our goal is to inform as many people as we can and give you as much information so that you're comfortable when we get to the AGM, AMM to ratify these. And if we have questions that we do not get to tonight, the board is more than prepared to hold another town hall to answer questions should we need to. All these questions will be posted on the website should you want to review them again, and any questions that we get in the next 2 weeks will be posted on the website, so there will be an opportunity to review new questions coming in. So at this time, please bear with me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we are going to open up for